Stimulating the clitoris to make her come is not the female orgasm. When your goal is just to make a woman climax from the clitoris, she's actually getting very poor sex. There are 7 female orgasms you absolutely need to know about, and most men only know about 1, maybe 2 if they're lucky. What I'm going to share comes from 2 decades of helping women professionally develop their orgasmic capacity, and I'm going in increasing order from the least valuable orgasm to the most enriching and powerful, including the ones that many men and women never discover in their entire lives. What most men don't understand is that chasing the clitoral climax, the one orgasm you think you're supposed to give her, actually shuts down the conditions for far more powerful, expansive orgasmic experiences. The nervous system doesn't work the way you think it does. Orgasm isn't just one specific event. It's an activity, a state that her body can enter and sustain. By the end of this, you're going to understand why everything you've been taught about female orgasm is keeping her from the experiences that would actually satisfy her. At the bottom of my rankings is the clitoral climax. This is what people generally understand as the female orgasm. You stimulate the clitoris to build up tension, you rub it and reach the release. There's one intense sensation of pleasure, but that's it. For many women, this is actually the hardest orgasm to achieve. It involves a lot of monotonous stimulation, pressure, and often even anxiety about getting there, which makes it even more difficult. That's why, even when women reach a clitoral climax during sex, it still often feels very unsatisfying and empty, because sex essentially becomes a lot of mechanical work just to achieve one intense sensation. We can make the clitoral climax easier and more reliable, but it will still always remain the most difficult and the least enriching of all orgasms. Second from the bottom is the G-spot orgasm, stimulating the area on the top wall of the vagina roughly halfway in. Usually this happens with fingers, though for some women it can also happen during penetration at specific angles. People make a frustrating mistake with the G-spot orgasm. They expect it to feel exactly like the clitoral climax, a buildup of tension, a big explosion, release, and relaxation. For some women it does behave like that, but for many the G-spot orgasm feels quite different. When you do intense G-spot stimulation, there's a particularly intense moment, it passes, and then you continue. There can even be a few of those peaks in one session. The biggest mistake I've repeatedly seen is that the G-spot isn't just always there and ready. It can be active and orgasmic or deactivated. If you go straight in and try to rub it to make her come, like you're taught on YouTube, it will often shut down and feel like nothing. You have to activate the vaginal areas really well with gentle stimulation first, with love and presence, to make it sensitive. Only then does it make sense to switch to more focused G-spot stimulation for a better possibility of orgasm. Before moving on to vaginal orgasms, there's a third kind we can achieve with these same areas but much greater results, what I call orgasmic waves. You create them from the G-spot or clitoris by changing the technique completely. Instead of rubbing to build tension, you first use gentle pressure to activate the area and make it really sensitive, then alternate increasing pressure and slow movement to gradually raise intensity. There's no tension building and no focus on release, just sending maximum pleasure into her body and building that flow more and more. When you take it to very high intensity, you reach the orgasmic level in her nervous system. The orgasmic activity begins, and she's not having a quick orgasm, but feeling orgasmic as a prolonged, ongoing state. She experiences an ongoing flow of orgasmic pleasure, far more than a quick climax, entering trance-like, blissful states with a deep internal release, not just localized. You can finish with a climax if you want, or not. Women often feel they don't need it. For most women I've worked with, this has been far easier to achieve than a climax, with much less stress, pressure, anxiety, and hard work for both partners. The fourth on my list is what I call the false vaginal orgasm. During penetration, when the penis is deep inside and bodies are grinding, the clitoris can climax from that indirect stimulation. People interpret it as vaginal because it happens during penetration, but it's still just a clitoral climax. Only it feels different because the vagina is receiving pleasure at the same time and the sensation refers inward. Studies show that, by different estimates, at most 1 in 5 women can climax this way. It's a poor and imprecise way to stimulate the clitoris. You can try it lightly, but don't create stress over something unlikely. Chasing this during penetration actually shuts down the conditions for more expansive vaginal orgasmicity. Now we enter the orgasms that are much more powerful, nourishing, and satisfying. You have to change how you understand female orgasms entirely. Orgasm is an activity within the nervous system, and we can arrive at that orgasmic activity by other means, moving from quick orgasms to being orgasmic as an ongoing state. Fifth is true vaginal orgasmicity. I don't usually call it a vaginal orgasm because that suggests one event, but instead the vagina goes into an orgasmic state and stays orgasmic. When you make love to the vagina really well, it activates, becomes sensitive, alive, and vibrant with sexual energy everywhere. The entrance, G-spot, cervix, all blending, radiating orgasmic pleasure into her body. This can be prolonged, blissful saturation, far more enriching than any quick climax. It doesn't come from rubbing a spot but from present, intentional movement, caressing all areas well, transmitting feeling, progressively building intensity during intercourse, and arousing her whole body beforehand. Rubbing the vagina trying to make it come is counterproductive and often shuts it down. That's why so many women feel little in the vagina during sex. Yet when approached right, this experience is far easier for women to access than any mythical vaginal climax. Next is the cervical orgasm, a specific part of that vaginal orgasmicity. When the deepest part, the cervix, is stimulated really well, it sends incredibly strong orgasmic waves, mind-blowingly pleasurable, but also profoundly nourishing, creating deep internal release. For many women, this area is initially locked or even painful from past rough stimulation, but it can be reversed with gentle, progressive interaction, so she gradually trusts and opens. Most women I've worked with access cervical orgasmicity far easier than even clitoral climax. Last, a woman can enter an orgasmic state for her whole being. When she's really relaxed and her whole body is awakened and receiving pleasure everywhere, her entire body becomes hypersensitive in all erogenous and genital areas. Moving between penetration, oral, hands, touching anywhere, all of it feels vibrant and intensely pleasurable, like her whole body is a field of orgasmicity. The technique is simply good technique for every part of the body and every part of sex. This can last for hours, only building. Any kind of climax comes nowhere near this. So don't stay locked in the narrow focus of trying to make a woman come. That actually shuts down greater possibilities. Men sometimes want a mechanical technique, but you make love to the woman powerfully, arouse her whole body, create greatest pleasure in every sensitive area, and then her body can become orgasmic in all these ways. The more she experiences true lovemaking, the more her orgasmic capacity opens and develops through trust. But most important, none of these orgasmic experiences are the real achievement in sex. The greatest value is that you make love well. The entire experience in every moment feeds her with sexual energy, love, and connection. Orgasms are just an addition and natural product of that aliveness. Truly making love is win-win. You can't go wrong, and setting any goal is always lose-lose.